Good evening, everybody. In these troubled times, I hope you all are well. I hope you all are staying at home. And this is a session on putting. So I've been doing a lot of detailed study on putting for the last 12 years. Probably that's the time we got the Sam Putt Lab here in 2008. And just want to tell you that, most people treat putting as an art, which is there for most people, and they try and get into a zone. So the human brain, the human mind has two sides. It has the left side, the left brain, which is our logical side, and it has the right brain, which is intuitive, imaginative. It has feel. So putting is a right brain activity, and when we want to get into good putting, we must be using the right side or the right brain part of our mind. Now, what happens is that when we are putting subconsciously or are in the zone, right? And when things don't go right, we have to somehow be able to analyze what's happening. And most people are pretty clear about what they do in long game. They know the work of posture, grip, and everything else. And putting is something which they try and find something new every day. They change a putter or they try something new without knowing what they have to do. And so basically the analysis is missing in putting. Very few people videotape their putting strokes. They don't check what's actually happening. So we need to make a system where you know the important ingredients in putting and try and see that you respect those. And if you have to find a fault, you have to have a way of going into it. And that's what we're trying to do in this session. So it's going to be a lot in detail, and just want you to know that why is this detail necessary? So in the year 2008, the percentage of people making putts from 10 feet was about 25%. That's amongst the good players, right? Amongst the professionals, the PGA Tour. At this moment, it's about 40%. So this increase or the improvement in putting stats at about 10 feet is all because of equipment. It's like there's analysis equipment like Sam Putt Lab, and there's stuff which has happened in the last few years, which is more analytical, which is kind of left brain, you can say, to be able to figure out what's going wrong in a putting stroke and be able to fix it. So we have, I don't know how many of you have read this book. This is Every Shot Counts by Mark Brody. Mark Brody is the guy who does the shots gained and shots lost in the PGA Tour. He has a lot of stats. He's tracked players since Tiger Woods' time in 2000, and so the two places where people stand out, even in the PGA Tour or any tour in the world, in the professional world of golf, is that so most guys can drive it fairly okay. Some people are a little longer, but they gain a little bit because of that. Most people can hit a mid-iron to a green. Most people can wedge it well enough. Most people from a longer putt can put it close to the hole and can hold a short putt. The two places where winners stand out are at the mid-range putt, which is a 10 to 15 foot putt, and a long approach shot. So this 10 to 15 foot putt is a very important length to work on. Now I want to show you something. So if a putter face at impact is open by, say, 2 degrees, right? You will hold, or you'll at least come to the edge of a hole at 5 feet. That's a putt at 5 feet, right? At 10 feet, if you have a 1 degree error, you will again lip out, or you'll come close to the edge of the hole. So you can see that the difference between 2 degrees and 1 degree is the difference in making a 5-footer and a 10-footer. At 15 feet, you need to be about a half a degree error to be able to hold a putt. So it's between a 10-footer and a 15-footer, there's a half a degree. And just to understand what really is half a degree, a second's needle on your watch is 6 degrees. It's 360 divided by 60. So a degree is 1/6 of a second needle, which is a very small amount, and you can't see it. So when you use measurement equipment, or you use now with the most phones or iPads, we have a camera which does 120 to 240 frames per second. You can see a lot on that, and you can see whether the face is open at impact. You can see ball roll videos. So everybody cannot have a Sam Putt Lab, but there are lots of other ways to be able to analyze your putting stroke and seeing what's happening. So just to give you a definition again of what putting is all about, if we just look at this, we have to get the ball rolling on the intended line with the desired speed. Now, what does that mean? Getting the ball rolling means there is a top spin which is coming on the ball. So if we have backspin or a skid as you hit the putt, the ball doesn't get rolling. It doesn't have true roll. So one of the factors is top spin, right? Second factor is on the intended line, which means the face. 90% of the intended or the ball starting on the intended line is from the face of the putter. The path only has a 10% effect on the starting direction of the putter. Most people work very hard on the path, figuring out whether they should go straight back, straight through, or have an arc. But the only effect of the path is the relationship of the face to the path. So that means if the putter was coming out to in and the face was even square, the face is actually open to the path and it will produce some sort of a side spin. So the face and the path should be square to each other. The second thing the path does is if I have too much of an in to out path, I will tend to hit it on the heel because the putter is traveling outwards, it will hit the heel of the putter. If I have an out to in path, I will tend to hit the toe. So a path error can lead to face to path relationship and it can lead to an off center strike. Now in today's time, so when you had a ball hit with a putter like this, and we had a ball which was hit kind of off center, right? As you hit the ball, the toe would kind of open, and this ball would it's called gear effect. Gear effect is when you have two surfaces, when one moves in one direction, the other will move in the opposite direction. So when you have a ball hit on the toe of the putter, you tend to create hook spin. And when you hit a ball off the heel of the putter tends to go this way. So it starts left, but the spin on the ball is a left to right spin. So, but in today's time, when we have putters which have lots of weight on either side, you can see the putter has a lot of weight on either side. These are called high MOI putters. Now, these don't twist. So in 2008, when we got the Sam Putt Lab, an off-center stroke also had like a 70-80% effect on the starting direction of the ball. With the high MOI putters, this effect is not really there. The ball doesn't lose speed even if it hits slightly off the toe or the heel, nor does it have any gear effect, nor does it lose direction. So the two important factors become the face, where the face is, and the face to path relationship. Now what happens is, as soon as you hit a putt, right? So we can take a half colored ball and we can sort of take a video from behind, and as soon as we hit a putt, if the face is open, the ball will tend to turn to the right side, right? If the face is closed, the ball will tend to go this way. Now what happens is, if we have a deviation, it's going offline. But suppose the ball has top spin. The ground grabs the ball with friction and the ball does not deviate much off the line. So it sort of started to the right, but the ground grabbed it and the ball starts rolling on this axis, on this line now. So it has deviated to some extent, but if you have top spin on the ball, it doesn't deviate so much. Now, if it didn't have top spin and it had backspin, I've seen even balls which actually flew on the green a little bit. This ball will deviate there. It'll keep skidding in that direction. So it's gone offline by a lot before the ground starts grabbing it and it starts rolling on that line. So topspin does help, because even if there's a slightly open face or closed face at impact, the ball doesn't go that much offline. So we have, now comes the third part here, is with the desired speed, right? So distance control is the desired speed which we require, and we got to figure out now how to work on these three aspects on putting. So if we look at in the Brody book, he puts 40% on direction, 40% on green reading, and 20% on distance control. But I have kind of given them all equal. I mean, we don't want to go in percentage, but we have three parts. We have directional control, we have distance control, and we have green. Now, if somebody had side spin on the ball, they will read the green differently because the ball will behave differently on the green. So green reading will only start becoming truer to the actual line once you have a stroke where the ball has got a true roll. Until we have a true roll, we will not be able to read the green. So we have many people who differ on the line because they all have a stroke which is different. So if we had a non-neutral stroke and the ball didn't have true roll, we will start reading the green on that basis. Now I have seen good putters who are repeatable. They may not be perfectly correct. The face may be slightly open. They may have a particular spin on the ball, but they are repeatable. Now if they are repeatable, we would leave it. So if you have any some people call it compensation, I'll say coordination. If you are able to do something even which is opposite, but you can do it every time, you can still use that method. But if it is not repeatable, and I think most of you who would have joined the putting thing would have some issues in putting. So if it's not repeatable, we need to find out what's happening, what are the things which are going out of position, so that we can analyze and figure out a putting stroke. Now, if we had a beginner, we would first get them to work on distance control, because they must figure out how much speed do they have to impart to get the ball there. And if they have decent distance control, the chance of three putting would get less. So the idea of putting is as to start with the beginner, as to start, or somebody who is a higher handicap, we have to reduce the number of three putts they make. And that means they have to get the ball closer to the hole, so the speed control becomes an important issue. But we have a hierarchy in putting, and we have to go by the hierarchy of when we analyze. Let's assume that we have an average player or a good player, and we have to go through a stream or a hierarchy in putting. The first thing we want to do is what the face is doing, right? That the face at impact, is it within, so the Honor Sam Putt Lab, when it was invented in 2008, he had done a research, this guy had done a research on all the pros, and he'd taken an average. So the tolerance is between the degree open and degree closed, and if you're within that, you are in the pro zone of putting, because you would be able to hold something close to a 10-footer, right? Now, I want to also give you some stats as to why this 10-footer is important. In the Brody book, at 2 feet, we are at about 96%, and the PGA Tour, we have a 96% chance of holding a putt. At 8 feet, it's 50-50. At 15 feet, it's 25%, I think. It's 23%, and at 30 feet, it's 7%. Now, what happens is that, so if I had at 8 feet, if I had two balls, I would hold one and I would two putt the other. So the total for two would be 3. That means the score per ball is 1.5. So if you miss a putt, right? If you miss it at 8 feet, you've only lost half a stroke. You haven't lost a full stroke. You've lost, the score should have been 1.5 for two putts, and you missed a putt, so you lost 0.5. Now at 30 feet, you have a pure chance of two putting. So anything above that, if I made a two putt from say 45 feet, I've also gained 0.3 of a stroke, because the chance of three putt may have been 25-30%. So we have to look at, somebody would miss a 8-footer and then two putted from 45 feet may say I'm putting badly because I missed a putt. But actually, he hasn't lost very much, because at anything above 30 feet, the chance of three putt was there, and he made a two putt, so he's gained some back. So now what we're trying to look at is that how do we hold this 8-footer to 10 to 15-footer, and that is by reducing that error to under 1 degree, right? So the question is now, how does that happen? So the face at impact, if I'm not square at impact, as soon as we see a ball move, we'll see that it will move in a particular direction. It'll move. If I had a closed face, I would go this way, and the ball would go to the left side. Now, why would the face not be square at impact? So first thing is that maybe the person didn't aim correctly at start. All right. So if he didn't aim correctly at start, so if the putter was already left, let's assume it was left, I would have had to have an opening action of the putter to make it square at impact. Now that opening action may not be repeatable. Sometimes I come back square and the ball goes straight left. Sometimes I open too much and the ball actually spins to the right side. And when it's spinning to the right side, it also ends up going short because it doesn't have true roll. So if we had poor aim, we would have issues on being able to return the putter back to square at impact. Similarly, if I had a poor path, it will be difficult to get the putter square to the path at impact, right? Now comes other factors in this. Sometimes, so once we've got these two things, we're looking at face and path. We'll then look at topspin, like I explained to you, that we have if the ball deviates offline, it will still hug the ground and go towards the hole, and it will not deviate so much offline. Then comes rhythm and timing, which is and backswing, which are the speed issues. So distance control would come from rhythm and timing, and the length of the backswing. We'll go into detail with that little later. And then comes the centeredness of strike, which will have a small percentage, but it depends on the putter you use. And now with the high MOI putters, and you see in today's golf, the mallets are increasing, right? Because they are high MOI. And I'll explain to you as we go along what are the advantages of that, but it's not necessary that everybody who has to putt has to use a mallet, because there are people who prefer the answer style putter and they putt well with it. As long as they are centered strike, there's nothing wrong with this. Now what happens is, I will explain to you what the different putters do as we go along. So we are trying to achieve what's called true roll, which means an end over end roll, and the end over end roll basically matches the circumference of the ball and doesn't have any skid within that putt as the ball leaves the putt. So the quicker the ball rolls off the putter with topspin, the better you are, right? Now, as we go on, I want to just change the position of the camera for you to be able to understand how do we go through a sequential thing of getting the face correct at impact. So, visually, you cannot sometimes see from behind whether the putter is square, because a degrees error is very difficult for the naked eye to be able to see. But sometimes when we do ball roll videos, we get an idea of seeing which way which at impact is the tendency of the ball to go to the right or the left, because you can see that very clearly on a slow mo video. Now, if somebody had aimed the putter, right, you can see that I'm trying to aim at that hole there. We have a laser, right? And if we put the laser on the putter, you can see that now the laser is just pointing. The laser would be pointing somewhere to the middle of that hole. And if I had an error, I could see that the laser is pointing way to the right side. I think is it visible? So you can tell how many degrees of error there is when you look at that. So you can check whether the person is aiming correctly or not. The best way to do this would be to do the gate drill. So a lot of people have the tendency, so I have a tendency of aiming a little bit to the left side. And during the stroke, I am trying to open the face of the putter just to match the degrees error. So if we use a gate, say about 3 feet away from where we are putting, if I aim left, there is no way I can compensate in time to get that ball through the gate. So when we go onto a green, we ask the player to tell a kind of a high point, the high point of a break, and we place the gate about 3 feet from the player and ask him to get the ball to the gate. And if he has a tendency to aim wrong, he will hit. So sometimes you can use 2 tees, or you can get a gate, or 2 tees is the easiest one on a green. So if I have an issue with aim, if I have aim and I have to compensate by opening or closing the face, I wouldn't be able to get the ball through the gate. So that's the first thing which we can do to get aim better. Now question is, if somebody has an aim problem, we got to figure out why do they have an aim problem, right? So you have different ways of aiming. Some people aim visually. Some people aim with their body. So some visual players will place the putter and they'll use their eyes to get the aim correct. Some people will use the body, right? And some people are called stroke-based aimers. So I've had a professional who worked very hard on all the drills, but as soon as we removed all the boards or the mirrors or whatever it is, and we asked him to putt on a green, I mean, the line, I asked him what the line is, he says it's a foot right of the hole. And when I checked him at, say, about 15 feet, and I checked him with the laser, he was aiming a foot left to the hole. Now, he had the tendency to open the putter face every time. So despite all the drills, when it actually came down to putting on the green or taking all the gadgets away, he would again go back to his stroke-based aim, which was there was a tendency of opening, so he would aim left
to compensate for that opening of the face. So they are stroke-based aimers, they are visual aimers, and they are body alignment aimers who use the body to sort of set themselves up. Now the visual people need to respect what their eyes are doing. So when we do a screen, right, we put an alignment stick on the ground aiming at maybe the center of the hole and ask somebody to stand like parallel to get on that part and ask to see what does the alignment stick look like to them. So for some people it looks straight, for some people it does, and for most people, not some people, it does not look straight. So already when they're standing on it, there's a kind of a parallax, and the line, they don't see a straight line as straight. Now what happens is that if most people are told that their eyes should be directly over the ball. Now I have tested lots of people and only a small percentage fit into that category, that the eye is right over the ball. For some people, when they go further away from the ball, the line begins to look straighter. For some people, when they come closer to the ball, the line begins to look straighter. So it's not a fixed thing across the board. You have to try and figure out that if you put an alignment stick, use a thread or use another to make sure that it's in the correct position, and figure out at what distance to the ball where your eyes should be to be able to see that line look straight. So there are three parts in your eye, what your eyes do. One is the dominance of the eye, but that really affects more ball position than the aim, and ball position could affect aim. Now, one is the dominance of the eye, one is the distance to the ball, one is what's called gaze. Now, when we are looking at something with the eyes, with the eyeballs in the middle of the eyes, and if I turn like this, I will be able to read something very clearly. If I look at something like this, now it's not, it is 3D vision is only when something is straight in front of you. As soon as I look at something like this and I try to look there, I cannot focus on that. So if my eyes are not face down, if I'm not face down in my setup, I cannot get the perception of the whole. And if I'm looking at the whole like this, I will not be able to focus easily. And therefore, there will be an issue on aiming. So for good aiming, we need the face completely down so that this is like a 3D vision. And if you turn your head, you will be able to look at the whole easily. And we don't want the face, the eyes tilted to the bottom of your eyeballs. I want you to feel that your face is completely down. So you have the distance of the ball, you have your gaze, which is face down. You have your eye line, which could be to the left, to the right. So we need to see that we have the eye line, which is absolutely along the line. But you have some great putters like Jordan Spieth, whose eye line is to the right side, and yet he had no issue with aim. So if somebody had no problem with aim and his eye line looked off, we wouldn't change anything. You don't have to change it unless there is a problem with the aim. So once we know whether a straight line looks straight, we know that the gaze is correct, we know that the eye line is, if there's a problem, the eye line needs to be checked. Once we have this, the tendency for a visual aimer to aim better will improve, and therefore they'll be able to have that putter to within the degree which we are looking at. Then comes the body alignment aimers, right? They work very much with the segment, so if they have an issue with the body position, they will have an issue with aim. Now here comes the eye dominance. When you are left eye dominant, and you know the way to check left eye or right eye dominance is you make a little circle like that. You look at a ball through that circle with both eyes open. And if you shut one eye, now when I shut my right eye, the ball still remains there. When I shut my left eye, the ball is not in the circle any longer. So I know my left eye I'm a left eye dominant person. Tendency of left eye dominant people is to be able to only see correctly or visualize correctly if the ball's a little forward in the stance. So left eye people are tending to have the ball position a little more forward in the stance. Now that can tend to get the putter to aim left. It can tend to make your shoulders go left. So you got to figure out that improving one thing can have a harmful effect on some other part of your putting. So once we've got, so you may think that this is all, is all not so important. But if you got to hold 10-footers, you have to try and eliminate all these errors, and the face, because it has 90% effect, is the most important error to eliminate. I just have to go through my notes a little bit to be able to remain in a sequence.
So now comes the second part, which is if the path of the putter is not correct, the relationship of the face to the path is going to put a side spin on the ball again and not let you get a true roll. Now the path of the putter is caused by lots of things, right? It's caused by your body positions, right? It can be. So I want to give you a little bit of sort of a idea of what happens when you hold a putter. So if I hold a putter in my hand like this, and I keep this putter a little, so the wrist can do three things. It can have a wrist cock, or it can have a sort of an arching, which is going down. It can have flexion, it can have extension, and it can have rotation. So if I have flexion, it's going to open the face. If I have this way, I'm going to shut the face, and the path also is going to change. So if I hold a putter up in the air like this, as soon as I try and move it, the wrists start moving and the putter actually moves outwards. So when you have somebody's set up and the putter and the hands are very low, the tendency would be the putter head will go outwards. If I get the position where if I come here, which is in line with my arm, when I move the putter, it moves neutrally and I can feel my shoulder and arm do all the work and there's very little movement in my wrist. If I go this way, which is an arched wrist, the putter immediately moves in and opens a lot. So when I'm going inwards, I've got an arch in my wrist, my putter will move inwards. I'm going to move that into the other position. So if I'm standing here and I've got an arched wrist, my putter will tend to move in. If I have a cupped wrist, my putter will tend to go out. And if I'm in neutral, if I come from here and be in neutral position, I would have the right amount of an arc. So firstly, every golf stroke should have a small amount of arc. It could vary from 12 degrees to 21 degrees. That's what we have some templates here, which I'll show you. So there always would be an arc. To try and make it go straight back and straight through, we would be disconnecting our arms from our body. So there is always a little bit of an arc in a putting stroke. Now, if the arms were not in line or the shoulders were out of position, so if my right arm was inside my left arm, I would tend to have an in to out stroke. If my right arm was outside my left arm, I would have an out to in stroke. If I have my shoulders internally rotated, which means they're like this, they're internally rotated, the putter would tend to go out, and would tend to shut also. The putter face would tend to shut. If I'm externally rotated, right, I would tend to go there and the putter face would open. So some people who open too much on the backswing may be better off when they go this way, but they'll be able to, or they go too much inside so they can change their position and the putter would go straighter back. Some people who go outward in the follow through would have this shoulder internally rotating on the follow through, would make a push stroke, right, and the face would open. So you would have people who have the body working in different. So if you have, we should match the actions of the body. So if I go around on this side, if I go with my shoulders around this side, I should be able to go around on the other side too. And that will become a neutral stroke. So the amount the face opens, that's the same amount the face should close through a putting stroke. So when we don't have gadgets like the Sam Putt Lab, we can use this putting template, right? Now here there is an arc of the stroke. So the putter moves along the arc and the face of the putter would open being square to this arc. So when we take a video from the top, we can see whether the face was open or square to the arc. Sometimes people they go in with the arc, but the putter face actually shuts. So that ball is going to get a hook spin. So we can, with any phone which has 120 frames or higher, you'll be able to get a very clear image of what your putter is doing through the stroke, right? So we have templates. Now this one's a 21 degree template, 21 degree arc. There are lots of templates which can tell you, you can practice with them, and it can also be a analysis tool because you will be able to figure out whether the putter face is staying square to the arc or not. So we had face at impact.
we had face and path relationship. Path can be because of the way the body is set up, can become because of the way the wrists work. So if I was going too arched, the path would change. If I'm cupped, the path would change, and the relationship path and face would get affected, and off center also would start. Now comes the important factor. Now, once we've got the face not square at impact, we have checked that the person aim was reasonably good. Now, if they were not getting the face square at impact, it could be the fault of face rotation. Now, when a putter is moving back, there is a face rotation which is happening. I'd like to show you something. Give me a moment, please. So we have something which is called the laser putt. Now it's attached. I'm going to attach it to the putter and show you what happens.
So can you hear me? Oh.
Can you see?
Yeah.
So there is a laser. I don't know if it's very clear here. So I'll just pick up the iPad to show it on a thing from the top. So if I had an arc of a stroke going slightly inside, right, and the face shut, the laser will go this way, right? If the face was opening too much, it go this way. If I have just an arc, but there's no face rotation, you'll see that the line doesn't bend very. I'm using one hand, so it's not stable, but the line doesn't bend very much. So I have a stroke which is going in, it's going there, it's going in again, but the face is remaining square to the arc. And this gadget, so what we are looking for is that the face should not have much rotation. We don't want too much face rotation. And once you attach the gadget on the putter, it's a very useful tool to work with. So just to give you an idea now, face rotation is, a lot of people will say face rotation is something where so the normal tendency is to get a thicker grip and they try and say, okay, now that should reduce face rotation, or try and work on the type of putter. So we have three kinds of putters. We have a toe hang putter. So if I hold it in the air, the toe goes straight down. So that's a toe hang putter. We have the answer design normally has a 45-degree toe hang. So you can see that it's going down by about 45 degrees, right? And then we have a face balance putter, which will stay square. The toe will not go down, right? So normally it was said that the straighter the stroke is, the less opening of the face you require, and the face balance putter is the putter which we should use. But there are no absolutes in this game. So some people I've seen with face balance putters have lots of openings still. So there are lots of other factors which come into it. So one is the type of putter you use can help you. But the thing is with, normal thing was that this putter, which is toe hang putter, would open the maximum. But actually when you make short putts, because the toe is heavy, the first bit the putter actually shuts. And then when it goes further, it opens a lot. So there is a lot of face rotation on a toe hang putter, but it only happens for longer putts. On shorter putts, actually, in the first bit, the putter actually shuts. Right? You can hold the putter like this, and as you take it back, you'll see the first bit will shut, and then it'll open a lot. So toe hang putters tend to open a lot on longer putts. You have a 45-degree toe hang was the most common putter earlier. But what's happened with the answer design is, as soon as greens have got faster, we don't want too much face rotation, because face rotation also gives speed. So the speed, our rhythm and timing and the speed control we have, the power comes from our rhythm, right? It comes from the length of the backswing, and it also comes from face rotation. So people who have a lot of face rotation normally tend to have short swing. They have short, quick strokes because there's so much face rotation and so much speed coming from face rotation that they need short. And so people who have long strokes, normally the ones who don't have much face rotation, right? So we need to understand that face rotation is also by the design of the putter. It can be the thicker the grip, right? The thicker the grip, the less face rotation we have. Another interesting thing is that the MOI of the putter also has an effect on face rotation. So if I tend to miss putts left, if I have a lot of face rotation, and I tend to I have a lot of closing of the putter face through the stroke. If I have lots of weight at the back of the putter, this reduces the closing action of the putting stroke. So anyone who tends to miss left and has a lot of face rotation, you can see the putter closes a lot through impact. That's what gives them speed too. If they use a high MOI putter or they have the fangs at the back, anything which is more with the weight at the back will reduce the face rotation. People who tend to miss putts to the right side, they want the weight to be more in front, because the more the weight's in front, the more the putter releases. So the weight to the back obstructs the release or reduces the release. The weight forward increases the release. So if you tend to miss putts right and your putter doesn't release, you would be better off with the putter where the weight's more in front and doesn't have too much weight at the back. If somebody had excessive face rotation, the first thing they should go is to shorten the length of the putter. Now, what happens is, when we have a lot of people will be asking this question, is that how do you cure a yip? A yip is an uncontrolled putting stroke, and a yip comes from two things. One is a face rotation which is not uniform, right? So basically, on the backswing, the putter face opens, it comes back to square at impact, and it closes post impact. There's this curve which you get on Sam Putt Lab, and the more the curve is, the more face rotation we have. So Tiger Woods typically has high degree of face rotation. He has a relatively straight backswing to stroke with a lot of face rotation. Now, so that requires timing. So when he's off, he can be off, but when he's good, he's a very great, he's a great touch putter. But technically, the ideal rate of face rotation is 25 degrees per second. So somebody who has a lot of face rotation would be like 40, 45 degrees a second. And people with low face rotation, like I said, would require to have longer strokes, because that's what's going to give them the energy. They won't have the shorter, quicker strokes. So if we have too long a putter, the face rotation increases. Then comes the position of your wrist. You can have position there. You can have a rotation coming from your forearms. So if I increase the grip size, I can reduce the work of the hands. But if somebody had forearm rotation, that's not going to stop with the grip size. So if somebody was actually got face rotation happening because they rotate their forearms around, the grip size will not change anything. So we have another part, is that whenever somebody has a lot of opening of the putter on the backswing, the more they go down with the hands, the less the putter will open. It will almost like shut. So if somebody in his posture is bent a lot over the ball, the hands will tend to be low and the face rotation will tend to be less. People who are tall and who have the hands more like this will tend to have more face rotation. So your setup can also change the amount of face rotation we have. Now, if the face rotation is uniform, you'll tend to be within the degree which we are looking for at impact, and you will putt well. Now comes the factor of rhythm and timing. It's a very important factor. So rhythm and timing is something which we try to get once people go and say, okay, I got the feel of the green. So the rhythm of a putting stroke is 2:1. So the backswing time, if it's 1.3 seconds, and the impact time will be half of that. So if you were to do a little rhythm exercise, I just put this thing on the other side now for a moment, please. So if we try and create there's a drill we do. So every putt, no matter whether it's a short putt or a long putt, should have this rhythm. So if I stood here and I tapped the putter twice saying 1, 2, 3, 4, I would like to feel that the putter has, so it shouldn't be that the 3 becomes too slow and the 4 is quick. Second thing is that when we make a stroke, if you have to clap with one hand, you would go to from the top of the backswing and accelerate from there to get to that to make a uniform sound. If you came late and accelerated, you will find variable speeds at impact. So what we have is the feeling of 1, 2, 3, 4, and after some time you can eliminate the 1, 2. You can just say 1, 2 in your mind and say 3, 4, right? And once we have the idea of rhythm, whether it's a 5-footer or a 30-footer, only the backswing length is changing, the rhythm is remaining uniform. So what we want is uniform rhythm, accelerating from the top of the backswing, and then figuring out how much backswing one requires for what length of the putt. Now comes the third factor, which was, I told you about the topspin part of a putting stroke. If I had now if this ball was being hit, as soon as it's hit, it should turn over like this, right? Now, to get this topspin part, we need two things. We need the putter to be de-lofted at impact. We need the slightly forward lean of shaft. We need the putter traveling slightly upwards. You can see, imagine you're playing a racket game. If you have to hit a topspin shot, you'll be coming from down up with a face which is closing, right? Or de-lofting, or it's not closing really, it's de-lofted. So I want the feeling that the shaft would hit, they would lean forward at impact. The rise angle, so basically we have roughly 3 degrees as a standard loft on putter. So the rise angle has to be greater than the loft of the putter at impact. That's what we have on Sam Putt Lab, and we can do it visually also. As soon as you do it correctly, you'll see this ball will roll over correctly and it will not skid. I have seen balls which skid for a few inches before they roll over. I have seen balls which actually fly because the shaft was leaning back and the loft was like 7-8 degrees at impact. The ball actually took off and then started rolling. So lots of things happening, and that's what. So number one, when it hugs the ground. So imagine if you take a scooter tire and throw it on the ground, it will bounce a few times and start rolling. But if you kind of do this and put topspin on it, it will hug the ground straight away and will roll much further. So there's something called gyro forces. So when a cycle is running slow, this wheel is not stable. As soon as it picks up speed, it sort of holds its line better. So as soon as you got topspin on the ball, it will hug the green and hold its line better. And this applies, people think that it should not be done on slow greens, it applies to slow greens as well. All you want in slow greens is enough loft to get the ball out of its indent in the grass where it's sitting. So it just has to kind of go over that, get enough loft to go over that, and then start rolling. So even on slow greens, we do need topspin. The getting that ball out of that place in the grass where the ball is sitting on slow greens, we must understand that we have to hit the ball higher on the face of the putter. So a lot of people in the attempt of trying to create an upward action start hitting the putter at the ball at the bottom of the putter, and that creates backspin too, right? So that's why the putter's depth is not matching the ball's diameter. It's always lower so that the ball is hit on the high side of a putter and not on the low of the putter. So anything which is above the halfway of the putter is where the ball should be hit. That helps the ball get out of its impression in the grass and start rolling the topspin. So we've covered rhythm and timing, we've covered topspin, and we've covered face at impact. Right? So we've spoken about high MOI putters, we've spoken about different things, and so we've spoken about rate of rotation, posture, putter type. So another part of distance control is very high conscious control. If somebody is very conscious about their putting stroke, they will tend to have rhythm issues. They will tend to be too slow on the backswing. So sometimes we have to get them to get out of too much thinking. And we have seen that sometimes there are drills of you just looking at the hole and making a stroke, and you will find that the stroke is freer and has better rhythm than with high conscious control. So speed control comes from not having high conscious control, understanding the 2:1 rhythm, understanding that your stroke and the acceleration of the putter is from the top of the backswing and not late, right? So, whenever people in the old days, when the greens were slow, they still have a long follow through, right? That was because you had to accelerate a lot. And when you accelerate a lot, you tend to have a really long follow through. As the greens became faster and faster, you saw the stroke became more of a pendulum, which was almost like equal amount both sides. And now the stroke has become a little bit of like a hit. You don't see very long follow throughs. You see the follow through getting kind of shorter and the acceleration at the top. And it's like, if I had a caddy sitting in front of me, I would ask him to put his finger here and make sure I hit his finger first before hitting the ball. Another checkpoint you can do is if I put a tee on the top of that thing, I don't want this tee to point backwards at impact. We want that tee to feel like it's getting slightly closer to the left hand and does not move away. So anybody who has a tendency to flip will just put a tee here and just see that the tee remains closer to your left hand when you're making a stroke. Now so also the speed control comes from, is different from player to player. So when I do a screen of a player, I ask them to make putts in different ways. So Dave Stockton, who is one of America's top PGA coaches, he asks everybody to just go lead hand and hit putts with the lead hand. Now what happens with the lead hand, if somebody was good with this, if he made 5 putts and could hold most of them, you would ask him to feel everything lead hand. People who are going left hand low are the ones who are working with the lead hand. So left hand low is getting more popular in putting on the tours, and it's because the lead hand, now also when you do lead hand putting, the rate of rotation or closing of the face on the follow through becomes less. People who use trail hand, like Tiger Woods practices with his trail hand, he goes trail hand. Now in trail hand, the tendency of releasing the putter is more and the face rotation is higher. So anyone who needs more face rotation could practice a little bit of trail hand work. Anyone who needs to reduce face rotation would be better off with the lead hand putting stroke. Some people putt better when they just focus on their arms moving back and forward. Some people work better with their shoulders moving around and around. And some people work better with their shoulders going tilt and tilt. So you got to figure out which way is better for the player and leave him. If that's working well, you can give him a screen, ask him to do 5 putts with each method. And you'll see that one method will definitely kind of stand out, or 1 or 2 may be better than the others, and you have to choose between those 2. But try and do this as a drill, and you'll figure out that which one gets you the better feel and which also respects face rotation, rhythm, and of course the path and everything else will follow. I think that's about what covers most of the stuff that we wanted to do. I think it's time
now, sir, now we can take a few questions.
Yeah.
So just to interrupt you, before we go into the question and answer,
Yeah.
I think we have about more than 50 questions lined up already. So
Right.
so we'll try to take as much as we can as the time permits. So in
Okay.
case some questions you feel you have already demonstrated, sir, you can just tell
can
that
skip.
it's already demonstrated, because we'll be sharing this video. It will be put up in the YouTube also, so people can go back and watch the same demonstration over again. So
That's fine. All right.
So over to you, Pramit. You can ask the first question.
Yeah. The first question is, how much should be the grip pressure?
Again, it depends. It's variable. So it's, some people generally talk about very light pressure. I think it should be enough to feel the putter head. But I mean, we have some people who say that the pressure is like 10 on 10. So Kramsky, who makes the very high-end putters, he talks about a grip pressure 10 on 10. So the higher the grip pressure, the less the face rotation. So if you need the putter to release, you should have light pressure. And if you have too much face rotation and you want to reduce face rotation, I think the pressure should go a little bit higher.
So the next question is, why is the putter grip flat?
So putter grips were not always flat, right? So we have now basically what we want is parallel palms. We want it's not like in the long game where we have knuckles of the left hand visible and the hand turned over this way. So we want parallel palms. So when you have parallel palms, you want your thumbs coming on the flat portion, and that's why that flat portion is matching, is giving you enough space to put your thumbs on, and you get your back of your left hand at the hole and your palm of your right hand at the hole.
The next question is, are there any drills for putting distance control?
So if I stood on a putting green and I took 3 balls and I maintain my rhythm and I say the same 1, 2, 3, 4, and I just say, okay, I want to hit a 10-footer. So the first putt I just hit, I don't look at a hole, I don't put a tee there, I just take it back as much as I think a 10-footer should go and maintain the rhythm and say 1, 2, 3, 4. See where it goes 10 feet, the next one should go 20 feet, the next one should go 30 feet. So you're just working on increasing the length of the backswing. So I would advocate that even Dave Stockton doesn't advocate a putting strokes feel like a full putting stroke. He only figures out how much backswing to take and walk in and stroke the putt. Now the question is, that's what the decision you make is on an uphill putt, how much backswing to take for a 10-footer on downhill. So you've got the idea of how much, if you have to throw a ball, you're figuring out how much you take it back and not how much pressure you put. So we can try and hit it harder, but that's not repeatable because it involves face rotation, involves other stuff. So the idea was to increase the length of the backswing. Now, when I putt with juniors, what I do is I give them a little game to play. That if we, from anything from 15 to 30 feet, if I can get it to within 3 feet past the hole. So let's say if somebody makes it in 2, we give them par as 2 points. If they go within 3 feet past the hole, they get a bonus point. If they go past that and still make a par, they still get their 2 points. If they leave it short, they get -1, right? So the idea is that every putt should go 1 foot to about a foot past the hole is ideal. And also while reading the green, most people, they actually read line first. You should read speed first and then figure out. So when you have a breaking putt, the amount of break depends on how hard you hit the putt. So if you get the 1 foot by speed every time, you will start reading lines also better.
Which is a good putting grip?
Which is a good putting grip. There are lots of putting grips. They are from, I mean, it depends on if you are trying to reduce face rotation, I said the left hand low is good. The claw is good. The standard putting grip is what's called a reverse overlap, where this finger is extended. It goes over the finger of the right hand, right? And that's the most commonly used putting grip is the reverse overlap. So either you have reverse overlap, you go left hand low, right? You go claw, you go, there are many types of grips. I've seen people who hold the hand like this. So it depends on what you're trying to do. So the reverse overlap is a standard putting grip. The others are all modifications to try and mostly reduce face rotation.
Why do certain people prefer fat putter grips?
To reduce face rotation.
What is the meaning of square putting stroke?
What's the meaning of a square putting stroke?
Into square.
So the putter travels always. So John Jacobs, who arguably was the best teacher in the history of golf, he had the simplest way of explaining things. So he would call a long putting stroke as in to square. So your putter goes in, it comes back to square and goes back in on a long putting stroke. And in a short one, he said it's in to square to square. These you just stay down the target line on short putts and you don't release or go inwards. It's an in to square putting stroke. That answers your question. Square would be the face square at impact and the face and path relation to be also neutral and square.
Sir, can we carry both mallet and blade putters during tournaments for different green speed?
Why would you want to? It's not going to. It's going to just cause confusion. I mean, you have to. If you were so good that you could adapt from 2 putters, it's better to get trained on one.
What are some drills that will help us during pressure?
So let's go back to the previous question. The only reason why people may change their putter or is the loft of the putter to vary on green speed. You may require higher loft, a little higher loft on slow greens, but nothing to do with the type of putter. You shouldn't change the type of putter. The next question, please repeat it.
Yeah, what are some drills that will help you putt under pressure?
Well, I mean, the question is, once we've got a stroke which is neutral, right, and it's repeatable, I don't see why should somebody have an issue under pressure. Now, if the question is that the tension in the arms and the smaller muscles, or when you have too much of, so when the small muscles are the problem under pressure, and we don't want to fear or excitement makes the small muscles get jumpy. So we don't want the small muscles getting active. If we can stay calm, can use the bigger muscles, you should be able to putt under pressure.
Sir, what should be the breadth of gate?
What should be the
breadth of gate?
The putting gate?
Yes, sir.
So I mean, you can start. So it depends on how good as a golfer you are. So you basically, if you make it too tough for yourself, you will never get confidence. So first, make the gate wide. I mean, wide means about 4 inches, 5 inches. Make it wide. Make it easy for yourself. It's always better to get from bigger to smaller and gain confidence than to start from a small gate and lose confidence. So start with something wide enough, get it through it, then narrow it down. So even in the gates, we have different widths. So you have the pro level, which is even narrower. So you have to get confidence. So you have to start with something easy.
Are there any drills to control putting distance and to improve alignment?
Question is, when we talk about alignment, it's too big a factor. Control putting distance is if you have uniform rhythm, you don't have excessive face rotation, distance control will start happening, and then comes the ability to read a green. Sometimes we think that sometimes okay, when you are making a putt on a golf course and you made a bad one, so you got to figure out. So when we are making any stroke, we have to visualize something. We make a decision, we commit to the decision, and then we trust the stroke and make the stroke. Sometimes it was a decision fault. We visualized wrong. So why would we blame a stroke? So sometimes you think it's going to be a slow putt and it didn't turn out to be a slow putt, and I made a 3 putt. So I should just say straight away that, oh, I made a wrong decision, and it was not the stroke. Sometimes we have decided, I know it's an uphill putt. Last minute, I'm not able to commit. I say, Jada na maar do, and I don't hit it. Now that's a fault of commitment. And I should know that I did visualize correctly, but I couldn't commit. I won't say it's a stroke fault. It's a commitment fault, right? I had a second voice in my head which told me, don't hit too far. So you have to figure out where did the mental error come in. And it's not, if you know that your stroke is good, it wouldn't be a technical error. It would be a mental error. So you got to figure out where the mental error comes in and how to improve that.
Tips for 5 to 10 feet putts.
Yes.
Are there any tips for long putts, I guess?
All right. So when so short putting, 5 to 10 feet would come, anything under 8 feet would become a short putt, right? So if 8 feet we have, so questions again, we need to gain confidence. When I ask a person when they're on the putting green, we are about at 8 feet, and ask them, what do you expect? And they say, I have to hold everything. And that's unrealistic because on the PGA Tour, it's only a 50-50 chance of making a putt. So sometimes people have unrealistic goals and they will never achieve it, so they'll never be confident. So once we have a realistic goal, so I'm making a 6-footer, and I know that the chance of making a 6-footer is like, say, 70%, right? So I know if I had 10 balls, I should hold 7 of them if the green was true. Now, question is, when we have short putts, the most important thing is the face at impact. Off center, heel, even speed is not as important as face square at impact. There is a tendency on short putts to over aim or over read them. There is a tendency of taking too much line. So on short putts, it's better to, once you read it, to aim the putter from inside or from the center of the hole outwards to the point you want to aim at, then from outwards inwards. So when you're outwards inwards, we tend to be over aim. We'll take an extra line. So aim it at the center of the hole and then move your putter to the right if it's from the right to left or to the left so that we don't over aim.
What's the loft on a putter?
I mean, it's 3 degrees would be standard loft. On quicker greens, we can reduce the loft to 2 degrees. Some people go to a degree now. When people had actually, so some people who have a tendency of extension, who flip the putter, they could actually still putt well because they try to do the best and yet they have a tendency of the shaft leaning backwards at impact. If they get to 0 degrees as static loft, they will create that much dynamic loft at impact because the putter is increasing its loft and they may be able to putt well. So sometimes you can use club fitting to get over a problem which you have in your stroke. So anyone who has a tendency to flip could go lower loft because at impact you have your standard loft, which is 3 degrees. And if I'm flipping, I'm increasing it to 6-7 degrees, which is too much, which is going to get backspin. So if I started at 0 degrees, maybe I'll be okay at least I'll be 3 degrees at impact.
Sir, how do we hit a push or pull?
So how do we hit a push or pull? Because I mean, you want to correct a push or a pull. Now, tendency.
Yeah,
so
he has corrected. Why do we hit a push or pull?
So I could have, in my setup, I could have a body which is moving this way during my stroke, which is going to make my arms go that way, right? I could have this shoulder going, I told you, going upwards and outwards, which would make a push stroke. Also, people who have a lot of face rotation, as soon as there's a lot of face rotation, they feel the putter shutting, and you push the putter out, it reduces the face rotation. So you could be doing a push stroke just to reduce the tendency of going left because of face rotation. Pull is, again, it could be, and again, push could be from setup also. My right arm could be inside my left arm. I could be, my shoulders could be pointing right. My eye line could be pointing right. There are lots of factors which can create a push stroke. Pull is the opposite of that. I could have ball position too far forward. I could have my shoulders left. I could have my right arm outside that. I could have a internally rotated shoulder on the backswing and a follow through which is going left. So there are lots of reasons for pull. But again, when we talk about push and pull, we are talking about push and pull, we're talking about path. We're not talking about ball starting right or ball starting left. When the ball is starting right or starting left, you have to look at the face first.
Can we de-loft and putt?
Yeah, you can de-loft and putt. But again, depends. You don't want to be 0 degrees at impact. So if your putter was 3 degrees and you de-loft too much, what will happen is that on slow green, the ball will go into the grass and bounce. So it would not be able to get out of its imprint in the grass. So too much de-loft will not work on slow greens. On quick greens, it may be okay.
I have a wristy stroke. How to reduce it? How to read the green?
Again, when people say wristy stroke, so I told you the wrist can have this, can have a cupping, which means an angle here, which will probably close the putter on the backswing, take the putter outwards. They can have an arching, which will go this way. So when you have extension of, flexion and extension, or you can have rotation. So wrists, we need to reduce all this work. We don't want too much of movement. Either it's called radial deviation or deviation this way. We want to reduce all this movement in a putting stroke. So another one of the things, I'll answer that question again a little more detail. If I took a towel, right, and put it under my armpits and now create a putting stroke, I will tend to work more with my body than with my wrist. So this is one of the good exercises of reducing that thing. I've also shown you the work of the tee, that if I had the tee moving around too much, so if I put a tee here, and now try to have the tee doing the least amount of work and my body doing the max amount of work, I would have reduced the wrist action.
So people are requesting, can you again show the book and the author?
This is available on Amazon. Once it opens up, Every Shot Counts by Mark Brody. So basically it's got a lot of information of, if you drive it 10 yards longer, what have you gained with the next player? If you putt it, if you chip it closer, if you chip it a foot closer, what have you gained? So it's got a lot of stats. It's a thickish book, and it's because once you have to know what are you working? So the best players in the world in the long game part have a 5% error, which means at 100 yards they will miss it by 5 yards, and that's the leading player on the PGA Tour, by the way, at 100 yards. So they have certain errors which they are there in the best players, and you can, if they have that error, you can be a little bit above that or worse than them, and you can, it's acceptable. So you can feel that you are confident. You'll gain confidence because you know that you haven't put the yardstick too high and you can't achieve it.
So the next question is, why does someone duff or top a putt?
If you duff or top a putt is when your center has moved. So if your center is moving around, that's when you will, or you come closer to the ball. It could be moving laterally, it could be moving up or down, it could be moving sideways, or it could be thrusting forward. So any impact issue will come when the center is moving around too much.
So how to check the balance of a putter?
When I explained to you the balance. So the question is, the weight of the putter is what is in your speed control, what affects your speed control. This, when I hold a putter in the air, right? That's a toe hang putter. I'm doing nothing, it's just holding it in the air and the toe has gone completely down, right? That is, I'm holding another putter in the air like that. It's a 45-degree toe hang putter. It's gone down by 45 degrees. And that's a completely face balanced putter, right? And the toe doesn't go down, so it's evenly distributed the weight. And so so they all three are different, and you can have it's not necessarily all mallets are face balanced. You can have a double bend shaft on this one if you prefer this kind of a face, right? And you can have a double bend shaft, and it can create a face balanced putter also. So you have to figure out what kind of putter you require, and then you can, the shape and size can, and the way the putter is bent can match that. You can have face balanced in an answer design too.
So you have shown us a laser. So where can we get that laser?
So we have, that's an expensive laser. That's from the Harris Wash kit I've done. I did 2 courses with Phil Kenyon, who's a Ryder Cup coach for Europe, and he runs this. So it's available online. So you have it's about, I don't know, 200 pounds or whatever. This laser is pretty expensive, but it's very accurate. Then you have this one which I was putting on, which is giving me the idea of face rotation, also very useful. And I missed one bit. We have something called a laser ball. Just give me a moment. Now, there is something called a laser ball, right? Now, just a sec. So it has a line on top. So lots of guys feel that when they use the ball line for putting, that it's an advantage to them, right? So we check with the player. I'm going to put the laser on the ground now just to show you. So if I place this, I put this laser towards the hole as best as I can, and I put the remote on, and it beams a light, and you can see that it's already kind of offline. I don't know if it's visible to everybody, but you can see that the red line is pointing left of the hole. I thought I put that correctly, but it tells me that I am 1.5 degrees already wrong. So a laser ball can help you understand whether the line you're putting on the ball is aimed to the target you want or aimed incorrectly.
How to have a sweet spot contact all the time?
That's relative to your path. So if apart from the arc or the putting stroke, if it's in to out, I'll tend to hit the heel. If I'm out to in, I'll tend to hit the toe. Also, if my body is not stable, if during the stroke, if I start, I have weight on my heels, and during the stroke, I've got my weight going onto my toes, my hands would move further away, and I would hit an off center. I could have arms traveling away from my body. So there are lots of reasons for off center. And if you use two tees on either side of the putter, you can train yourself to be able to hit the ball in the middle of them, hit the ball without hitting those two tees, and you'll be able to train yourself to make a center strike again and again.
So can you please talk about the basic of distance control?
I've already spoken about that. It's rhythm, uniform rhythm, and length of backswing.
Is it advisable to check the line of the putt on the green from the opposite side of the line?
Yes, I mean, again, it's different. People behave differently. So some people see it from behind and they prefer just to see it one way. Some people see it from behind, from the other side, from the low end also. It depends on what the person is. But before you step into a putt, you have to make a decision that you read the line correctly, and then you are focusing only on rhythm and timing and speed, and not on a correction of your aim. If you don't trust the aim or you haven't read it correctly, you will not be able to commit to that, and the putter face could be doing something which you don't want.
How do we determine the degree of arc?
Again, like I said, when we actually see it and we see somebody's stroke, if it is basically the more arc we have, the more the face has to rotate to be square to the arc. So it also depends on the kind of face rotation you have. Persons with a higher face rotation should have a slightly more arc to be able to be square to the arc. But these are not, absolute that every player has to respect that. I already told you Tiger Woods has a straighter back, straighter through stroke, not fully straight back, but a relatively less arc with a higher face rotation. But that requires timing.
Sir, what are the putting drills that we can do in the home without a device or a template?
So basically at home you can do short putting. You can't do very much. You can use a mat and do short putting, right? And short putting is where face rotation. If you are poor short putters, we need to practice at home, right? We can get the short putting okay on a mat because there is no line and it's a straight putt. And only if the face was not square at impact every time will I miss that putt. Otherwise, it's very easy. So if you have a mat which has a line on it, the mat here has a line on it, I'll show you a mat. This is available at Decathlon. It has a line on it. It's got two holes. One is the bigger hole, which is very easy, and one is the smaller hole. So if you work on this, you're working on getting the face as square as possible and as repeatable as possible. So the only way to do that is that the aim has to be correct, right? And second is to limit face rotation.
So should the backswing be shorter than the follow through?
No, I wouldn't advise too short of backswing. I told you people who have short backswing are the ones who have high face rotation. I'm back here. So there should be, if you have a 2:1 rhythm, then you will not have too short of backswing.
How to read the cuttings of the green?
You're not allowed to touch the green, but with experience, you know which way the grain is going. The shiny side, if you see it shiny, it means it's generally with the grain. Also, you have aim point, but aim point only works where there is no grain. So if somebody has a tendency of under aiming on long putts, aim point works better. Aim point is a system where you have a certain length and you have a certain degree of slope. So there's a system which is a little, it doesn't really work on Indian greens because we have the factor of grain too. But sometimes it gives you an idea that when you have used aim point, you're using not your eyes, you're using your feet to be able to tell you which way the slope is. The feet are very sensitive. You can understand that sometimes somebody is just a little bit that side of you and he makes a putt and it looks like right to left and you are about 3 feet on the other side of him, but you may be across the ridge. And for him, it was right to left and it could be left, right for you. And if you just look at his and say, oh, I must be having the same line, you may miss it because you're using the visual method. If you use your feet, you'll be able to tell that the slope where you're standing is actually the other way around and you'll be able to react to that.
So what are the variables should one consider when reading greens?
What are the variables should one consider? So whether it's a single break putt or it has 2 breaks, what's happening near the hole is more important. Reading speed is very important. You have to understand that people read greens or they aim differently. Some people aim from the hole backwards, right? They look at the hole and they sort of aim the putter from the hole backwards. And I found that when I've tried with people, a better method than reading from the ball towards the hole. So some people look at the high point of the break. So when you hit a putt and it's traveling fast, it doesn't break very much. And then as the ball slows down, gravity starts pulling it with the slope. So some people read the high point of the break and they try and start the ball at the high point at the right speed. So there are different ways of reading a green, different ways of aiming your putter after that. So it's a system which once you figure it out, you should just repeat it every time and not keep changing.
So someone has written this, that does not thinking too much about the line and speed. Sir, please help me making good putts.
Does
Does not thinking too much about the line and the speed.
So
please help me.
When somebody thinks too much, they are not able to commit. They're not able to make a decision. So they are not able. So if you read something, you may have read it wrong, right? So I thought this putt is right to left, and it ended up not as right to left. So I will know immediately that I made a wrong read or a wrong decision. But if I couldn't commit to what I did, I'll keep thinking, oh, maybe it's left, maybe it's right, maybe that, and I've gone into the putt, and I don't know after the putt if I missed it. Why did I miss it? Was it a poor stroke? Was it a poor read? Did I aim wrong? So once we've made a decision, you can't always be correct on the decision. So it's better to be able to just say, oh, I made a wrong decision. I read it wrong, and that's the fault, right? So when you are like that, you won't think too much. You'll just know that you create a system of how to read a green, commit to it, and then trust it and make a putt.
Sir, can a reverse overlap grip increase face rotation?
If I have, so the dominant hand, the right hand, the lower it goes on the putter, the more active it gets. The more the right hand goes on top and the left goes down, the less active the right hand. And I also told you that the right hand, if I was trying to release the putter more, I'd be more right hand stroke. So yes, the reverse overlap, which is a standard grip. If somebody had high face rotation, they would be advised to go the other way around or find a way where the right hand is not so active.
What are the ways to gauge the speed of a green and the direction of the green by naked eye?
So you only have your naked eye to be able to read the green. And I think partly is experience. And once you make decisions, if you just decide and you decide wrong, you learn. And you learn from your decisions. So I think the experience, so when we use the word intuition, intuition means stored memory. So when somebody has had enough experience on greens, their reading of greens would get better. And something you just have to be able, but firstly also you have to understand that if I read it correctly and I could not start it on that line, I will blame my read, right? So if I didn't have a neutral ball, so if I had a ball which is turning to the right side, it's going to move, it's going to cut to the right of the green. So on left to right parts, I'll have to take extra line. And on right to left parts, I probably will take more line. I probably think it's a straight putt. So everybody has a tendency and they read the greens with their tendency. So if you have a tendency and it's not neutral and you have a sort of a side spin on the ball, you have to read greens accordingly.
Can we use aim point for reading the line?
Aim point, of course you can use aim point, but again, like I said, aim point only considers the slope and not the grain on the green.
How to improve putting on not true greens? How to improve putting on not true greens?
Well, when you use the word not true greens, it's already a difficult job, right? So the question is that you must have topspin. That's one thing which will help the ball hug the green and roll better, right? That's about, and I think on not true greens, the only way to hit putts into the hole is probably a little firmer. So you have, because what happens is actually so what happens is if I hit the ball with dime speed, right, on a freshly cut hole, I have the 100% of the 4 1/4 inches as the capture width of the hole. The ball will fall in the hole if it's dime speed. When it's firmer, the capture width is reducing. So if you hit it on the edge of the hole, it will lip out. It will not go into the hole. So as we hit it firmer, the capture width is reducing. Sometimes when we look at greens, when the person cuts a new hole in the green, as he pulls out the mud and the soil from inside there, the side of the green crust, it goes like upwards, and they're supposed to take a putty and settle it down. When you have this crusting and it's raised, the ball goes up if it's dying and hits that little raised thing and deviates. So only firm parts go in the hole. So actually there are a lot of reasons why balls don't go there, but so the firmer you are, maybe it will hold its line, but the capture width of the hole is getting less. So it has to be really within that. So maybe it's only 3 inches, and if you're within 3 inches, you'll hold the putt.
Best putting grip to start the ball on line. Someone is asking to show you.
Well, I think whenever we start with any beginner or any mid player, we would start with the standard grip, which is reverse overlap. And then we would see if there's a requirement of moving it in some direction because of certain things which we are not able to control. So the starting grip would be a reverse overlap grip.
Why does someone duff or top a putt? I think you have
already answered that. I've answered that.
Will aim point be effective with grain?
I've already answered that. It won't be effective. The grain, it only looks at slope.
How much should you feel the shoulder rotate versus arms elevating? Any drills to train shoulder?
I use a towel drill, and I asked you to sort of putt with that, link the arms. So if the arms are connected to the body and the body does the work, the chance of off center, chance of deviation or poor contact goes out, and also the rhythm and tempo become better.
How to keep the bend of the wrist in check at address?
Ideally, the putter, the shaft of the putter should be in line with your forearm. So if I put a tee like that, you can see the tee is in line with my forearm. That it's in line with. See, if I went down, the tee would come up like that. That would tend to have flexion, have flexion on the backswing. If I went this way, you can see the putter is outside there. It'll create some work from your wrist, and the putter would tend to go up and outwards. So if you just put a tee there, and when you take your position, then it should be in the middle of the arms, and if the tee was here, you'd see the tee visible. If it was wrong here, you'll see the tee visible. So the tee should not be visible, and that will reduce wrist action.
If the left is lower in the grip, does it make the right hand dominant, or does it depend on the comfort of the player?
No, it makes the right hand less dominant if you have left hand low.
Sir, where to get the putting template?
Again, I got it from Harold Squash, from the Harold Squash putting school. So you'll see Harold Squash will have a shop, online shop. You can buy it from there.
Sir, we don't have any questions right now.
So thank you, everybody. I think if anybody has questions, they can write it to ProTouch and they can get in touch with me. You can answer a few questions if required. Stay safe, guys. Try and, this is the time when you need to analyze your putting strokes a bit at home. If you have a putting mat, try and use a phone, record your stroke, try and see what's happening, and try and see if you have a ball with a line drawn on it, that will be the best. You don't have a colored ball. If you have a line drawn on it, it will tell you that this ball should roll on its axis. Try and see that happen, record it. You'll see deviations. If you can square up the face and be repeatable, at least we're not going to miss short putts. And then from there, we would be able to get better with the mid-range putts and slowly get, and rhythm and timing for the long putts, and for short putts, get the face as square as possible. Happy golfing. Let's hope that things get better and we can get back to the golf course soon. In the meantime, stay safe.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Champ for Life Academy. And that's it for today's session.
So you can get the video in our YouTube channel also. The video will be recorded. It's being recorded and it will upload it. So in case you have any doubts or something that you have missed, you can always go back and check it again. Thank you, sir. Thanks for your time. I hope everybody has learned something from the session. Once again, thank you very much, sir.
Pleasure. All right. Stay safe, guys.
Same to you, sir. Stay safe. So we'll end the meeting over here. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
All right.